Sometimes, the deepest truths hide behind the simplest gestures. A single choice, an apparently innocent decision, can whisper what years of explanations never could. Before you lies a simple question. Which flower calls to you? It may seem trivial, almost playful, yet the pull you feel is not random. Because somewhere beneath thought, beneath habit, beneath everything you show to the world, something ancient in you recognizes that image. Carl Jung once said that the unconscious speaks through symbols, and when a symbol touches you, it is never by accident. It's because something in you vibrates at the same frequency, like two strings resonating across the distance of a lifetime. Flowers, though common to the eye, are messengers of the soul. They bloom where words cannot reach. Each one carries a secret code, a story, a wound, a wisdom. The Edelweiss, the Lotus, the sunflower, the cactus. 4 flowers, 4 paths, 4 reflections of one fragmented soul, each holding its own light and its own shadow. This is not a test, not a game, not a diagnosis. It is a mirror, an invitation to stop analyzing and start feeling. To sense which image moves you before you try to explain why. Why does one flower feel like home while another leaves you uneasy? Why does one draw you in with quiet strength while another blinds you with its brilliance? The answer is never in logic. It lives in your breath, in the moment your heart reacts before your mind interferes. What you are about to experience is not about labeling yourself. It's about remembering what you've hidden. Each flower is a doorway, a threshold to a truth you may have postponed for years. Some doors open gently. Others creak, resist, or even frighten, but all of them lead home. You won't find universal answers here, only paths. Paths that lead inward, where your fears, your longings, and your forgotten tenderness reside. They will not reveal themselves to the impatient observer. They open only to those who dare to look inward without running away. Perhaps you wonder, how can a flower say anything about me? But the real question is, why did that flower speak to me at all? The choice did not come from your reason. It came from your essence. From that part of you that still remembers the language of symbols, the one we all knew before we learned to talk. In the next few minutes, we'll walk together through these archetypes. We'll listen to their stories, their wounds, their strength, their quiet teachings. And maybe, just maybe, at some point you'll feel something inside you pause. That pause is not a mistake. That's where your journey begins, so. Are you ready to remember what has always been within you? Are you ready to meet the flower that lives inside your soul? The Edelweiss does not grow just anywhere. It chooses its home among the high mountains, where the air thins and the silence thickens. It lives where few dare to climb, in that sacred altitude between earth and sky. Those who are drawn to the Edelweiss rarely seek attention. In truth, they often flee from it. They are the archetype of the solitary sage, the soul who has learned to be alone without feeling lonely, the one who finds nourishment in silence and strength in distance. From the outside, this person may seem distant, reserved, even unreachable. But that distance is not coldness, it is depth, because the Edelweiss protects something sacred, its inner world. This archetype belongs to those who have learned to draw boundaries, not out of arrogance but as a spiritual necessity. They have understood that solitude is not emptiness, it is space. Space where the soul can finally speak without interruption. Yet this gift comes with a cost. Isolation can become armor, silence can become a cage, and introspection, when carried too far, can become a way to avoid vulnerability. Those who resonate with the Edelweiss often feel that the world below, the noise, the haste, the constant chatter, is too heavy, too chaotic, too superficial. So they rise. Sometimes by conscious choice, sometimes as a defense. And in that elevation, they lose touch with something tender, something human, the warmth of shared presence, the risk of being seen. But there is beauty in their path. The Edelweiss teaches us how to inhabit solitude without feeling abandoned, how to choose truth over noise, and how to speak rarely, but with purpose. It reminds us that peace is not found in withdrawal alone, but in clarity. If you chose the Edelweiss, or if you feel that it somehow chose you, you may have lived through times when the only way to survive was to climb higher, to step back, to create distance in order to protect your essence. And that was right. There is no shame in needing altitude to breathe. Yet life does not unfold only on the summits. Sometimes we must descend again, not to lose ourselves, but to share what we have learned up there. Your clarity, your serenity, your vision are not just for you. They are gifts meant to be offered. The Edelweiss is the flower of those who have made silence their home. But even the wisest soul sometimes needs a heart that listens without demanding explanations. If this is your flower, guard it well, but do not imprison it. Because your depth is medicine, and even in a noisy world, such medicine is needed. You are the mountain walker, the one who breathes where others gasp, who sees far because you dared to climb. But remember, even the purest air becomes lonely without another heartbeat beside it. The lotus does not bloom in perfect gardens. It rises from the mud, from the dark, from the depths that most would rather not see. And yet, when it surfaces, its petals remain untouched, pure, immaculate. How does it manage that? Not by denying the darkness, but by transforming it. Those who feel called by the lotus have not lived upon the surface of life. They have known pain, not as a concept, but as a lived experience. They have faced loss, betrayal, abandonment, or despair. But instead of turning bitter, they chose a harder path, the path of softening. The lotus archetype belongs to the inner healer, the mystic, the one who has walked through the fire and come back carrying light. Their strength does not come from hardness, but from compassion. They don't seek to shine, they seek to understand. They do not speak loudly, because their very presence already soothes. The peace they emanate cannot be taught in books. It is learned through scars. And yet, compassion has its own shadow. The lotus can fall into the trap of trying to save everyone. It may give too much, carry burdens that aren't its own, confuse healing others with proving its worth. But the truest gift of the lotus is not in saving others. It is in having saved itself. To choose the lotus, or to be chosen by it, is to accept a silent mission, to remind the world that pain is not the enemy, but the threshold, that every flower grows from a root, and that the strongest roots are the ones that dared to reach into the dark. The lotus does not judge. It observes. It embraces. It understands that every soul is at its own point on the path, and it never rushes to change anyone. It has learned that true transformation begins when we stop fighting our own shadow and start listening to what it wants to tell us. If this flower spoke to your heart, perhaps you have already passed through the fire. Perhaps you have lost parts of yourself along the way. And yet, something within you still remains, calm, luminous, unbroken. That something is your soul. You who know what it means to love even when afraid. You who learn to stand when no one could lift you. The lotus does not scream, it blooms. And in doing so, it reminds us that every wound can become a root, if watered with awareness. That the mud is not the opposite of light, but its cradle. The lotus whispers, "Your pain was never a punishment. It was the soil of your awakening." And perhaps now, as you hear this, you understand. You did not merely survive. You transformed. You became something the darkness could not destroy. The sunflower does not bow easily. Its purpose is clear, unwavering, to follow the light, even when clouds gather, even when the sky turns gray. It embodies vitality, courage, and a luminous optimism that persists against all odds. Those who are drawn to the sunflower are often seen as radiant beings, natural sources of warmth and hope. They walk into a room and something changes. Energy rises, spirits lift, hearts open. They give without measuring, love without reservation, and stand tall for others even when their own roots tremble. But that strength was not inherited. It was forged. Behind every bright sunflower lies a story few have seen. Quiet battles, nights of doubt, moments when their inner flame almost went out. They are not naive dreamers. They are warriors of hope. They know the darkness, and yet they choose light again and again. The sunflower archetype represents the resilient heart, the one that breaks but never closes, that keeps moving forward even when it no longer knows why. They embody the courage of the wounded who still dare to love. They don't just survive, they inspire survival in others. Yet, there is a hidden shadow beneath their golden glow. The pressure to always be strong, the fear of disappointing those who look to them for light, the exhaustion that comes from always holding others while rarely allowing themselves to fall. Many who resonate with the sunflower learned early on that their value was tied to their ability to make others smile, to be the protector, the encourager, the source of joy. They became the light to keep from being forgotten. They gave so much that they sometimes forgot to keep even a little warmth for themselves. But even the brightest sunflower needs rest. Even the most radiant soul needs the dark soil of silence to heal. Because the truth is, the sun also sets, and that is not a failure. It is a rhythm. If this flower spoke to you, perhaps you've spent years shining for everyone else while leaving parts of yourself in shadow. Perhaps the lesson now is not to shine brighter, but to allow yourself to dim, to rest, to feel, to be held. Because the true warrior is not the one who never falls, but the one who dares to admit their weariness and still chooses to rise. When a sunflower stops pretending that everything is fine and allows its night to be seen, its light becomes even more powerful, not for its perfection, but for its honesty. Its beauty lies not in being flawless, but in being real. The sunflower teaches that light is not the absence of shadow, it is its companion, and that courage is not found in constant radiance, but in the tenderness of saying, "Today, I need to rest." So if you are the sunflower, or if it found you, know this. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to receive. Because your light is not your duty. It is your nature. And even when the sky turns gray, your roots still remember the direction of the sun. The cactus does not cry for attention. It doesn't bloom to be admired, nor does it ask to be understood. And yet, there it stands, steadfast, enduring, silent, surviving where most life fades away. Its beauty is not immediate, but when you truly look, It tells a story of strength born in silence. Those who resonate with the cactus archetype are the quiet guardians of their own world. They've spent much of their lives learning to rely on themselves, to find safety not in others, but in their own inner fortress. They don't expect the world to understand them, and yet they keep moving forward. Step by step, scar by scar, they survive. The cactus belongs to those who have been tested by life, sometimes too early, who have learned that trust can wound, that openness can cost, that tenderness can be dangerous. So they built boundaries, not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. They grew thorns where they once had soft skin. They became their own shelter. If you chose the cactus, or if it chose you, it means you carry within you a deep and quiet strength, a resilience that doesn't shout, but endures. You are the kind of person who doesn't need applause, who endures storms without complaint, who has mastered the art of survival in silence. But every armor has its weight. Every thorn carries a memory. And the danger for the cactus soul is forgetting that protection is not the same as peace, that surviving is not the same as living. You may have spent years keeping your heart safe behind invisible walls, convinced that solitude is your destiny. But somewhere within you, a small, patient bloom waits, proof that softness still exists. When the cactus finally flowers, it does so rarely, quietly, unexpectedly. But that bloom is one of the most exquisite miracles in the desert, beauty born of endurance. The cactus whispers, "You don't have to hide forever." Not everyone comes to hurt you. Not every gaze is a threat. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to trust again. You are allowed to be seen, not as a fortress, but as a living soul. Those who identify with the cactus often know exhaustion that words cannot express. They are tired of always being the strong one, of holding it together when everything else falls apart. And yet, their quiet dignity remains. They don't seek pity. They seek peace. If this is your flower, then your strength is sacred, but your vulnerability is too. Let someone see your tenderness, even if only a glimpse. Because being seen is not weakness, it's healing. The cactus teaches us that even in the harshest desert, life can still find a way to bloom. And when it does, that bloom, fleeting, rare, fragile, is worth everything. So let your heart open, even just a little. You've carried your solitude long enough. The world does not need another wall. It needs your quiet truth. And the moment you dare to show it, you'll realize you were never truly alone. We often believe we are the ones choosing. But what if something deeper, something wordless, has been choosing us all along? Think for a moment. What did you feel when you first saw the flowers? Did you instantly reach for the one that felt familiar, safe, beautiful? Or did your eyes linger on the one that made you uneasy? The one you couldn't stop looking at, even though it unsettled you? In the language of the soul, the truest choice is rarely the most comfortable one. The flower that calls you may not be the one you like. It may be the one that knows you. Because the unconscious does not speak through logic or preference. It speaks through resonance. Carl Jung taught that what we most need to find is often hidden in the place we least wish to look. And within this test, that truth becomes visible. Sometimes, the archetype that disturbs us the most is the one that holds the key to our deepest healing. The flower that unsettles you may carry the message your conscious mind has avoided for years. So ask yourself, what if the flower you rejected is actually the one that mirrors your shadow? What if the one that frightened you is the one that remembers who you are? The Edelweiss, the lotus, the sunflower, the cactus, each is a facet of the same soul. Each carries both strength and wound. If you chose the sunflower, are you truly shining? Or merely wearing a bright mask so no one sees your fatigue? If you chose the cactus, are you strong? Or simply out of options? If you chose the Edelweiss, is your silence wisdom? Or fear of being touched? If you chose the lotus, is your compassion authentic? Or a way to numb your own pain? The flower you are drawn to is a mirror, and mirrors don't flatter, they reveal. They show not what you wish to see, but what you need to see. This is the moment when the game turns into encounter, when you realize that your choice was not random, not aesthetic, not superficial. It was the soul recognizing itself. We all hold two flowers within us, one in our hands, the one we show to the world, bright, coherent, admired, and another hidden deep inside, fragile, wounded, perhaps ashamed. One says, "This is who I am." The other whispers, "This is who I was forced to hide." Since childhood, we've been taught which parts of us deserve love and which must be silenced. We learned to perform, to be cheerful, strong, wise, kind, while locking away everything that felt too much. And in doing so, we became divided. Half blooming, half buried. Maybe the flower you present to the world is your sunflower, radiant, reliable, strong, while inside, a quiet lotus waits to be seen, soft and wounded. Maybe you appear as the calm Edelweiss, controlled, spiritual, serene, while inside lives a trembling cactus that just wants to rest. So the real question is, who are you when no one is watching? When you remove every role, every expectation, every mask? Which flower blooms in the silence of your solitude? The distance between what we show and what we hide is where exhaustion grows. Because pretending to be only one thing consumes more energy than living as all that we are. Integration does not mean becoming perfect. It means allowing all parts of yourself to exist without shame. The flower that you hide is not your weakness. It is your missing piece. The part that longs to return home. When you stop rejecting it, the inner garden begins to breathe again. Every flower carries not only beauty, but a memory, a wound that shaped its essence. Behind its fragrance, behind its color, behind its grace, there lies a story of survival. And just like them, you too have grown around your scars. The Edelweiss bears the wound of isolation. It climbed high, not only out of wisdom, but because down below, it once felt invaded, misunderstood, or rejected. Its pain is the pain of intrusion, of having its sacred space violated. So it fled upwards, seeking air too thin for others to follow. But in that very act of self-protection, it risked forgetting how to trust. Its path to healing begins the moment it dares to come down again. Not to lose itself, but to share the clarity found on the peaks. The lotus carries the wound of devaluation. It has traveled through darkness, places where it had to be stronger than it should have been. Its pain was invisibility, being too soft in a world that worships hardness. And so it learned to love unconditionally, even those who hurt it. But the wound softened it too much, turning its compassion into exhaustion. Its healing begins when it realizes it no longer has to prove its worth by saving others, that its light is enough simply because it exists. The sunflower hides the wound of abandonment. It shines so that no one forgets it exists. It smiles so that no one leaves. Its radiance often masks a fear, the fear that if it stops giving, it will stop being loved. Its pain is loneliness disguised as strength. Healing comes when it learns that its presence is valuable even in stillness, that being seen does not require performing, and that love does not have to be earned. The cactus carries the wound of rejection. It learned that showing emotion invited danger, that tenderness could be used against it. So it built armor around its softness, turning vulnerability into silence. Its pain is disconnection, the ache of being unseen in its truest form. Its healing begins when it learns that safety can coexist with openness, that not everyone comes to harm, that being touched can be sacred again. Every wound is legitimate. There are no small scars when they have shaped a life. Recognizing them is not self-pity, it is remembrance. Because only when the flower understands the soil from which it grew can it stop defending itself and begin to live. You do not have to keep protecting yourself from a past that no longer exists. The defenses that once saved you are now the walls that keep love away. You don't have to destroy them overnight. Just soften them, one breath at a time. Because what once was armor can also become skin again. Your flower is not only a symbol of your essence, it is a memory of your journey. And healing is not erasing that story, but rewriting its ending. Pain does not define you, it refines you. You are not broken, you are being sculpted into truth. When you can look at your wound without flinching, you realize something powerful. It never wanted to hurt you. It only wanted to teach you where love was missing. You've spent years believing you were just one thing, one identity, one role, one flower. But the truth is deeper, wider, more mysterious. Inside you, there is not a single bloom. There is an entire garden. At times, you are the calm Edelweiss, seeking silence, needing height, craving space. Other days, you are the tender Lotus, soft, feeling deeply, healing from unseen pain. Sometimes you rise like the sunflower, shining for others, holding light even in storms, and on quieter days, you stand like the cactus, still, grounded, protecting what is sacred. You are not one archetype. You are all of them. And trying to be only one, the wise one, the strong one, the calm one, fragments you. It forces your soul to live in pieces when it was born whole. True coherence is not about being constant. It's about being complete. It means allowing every inner season to have its place. The silence, the bloom, the drought, the storm. Because your truth is not a fixed identity. It's a rhythm. It breathes. It shifts. It evolves. Who told you that to be strong, you cannot tremble? Who said that to be wise, you must always be alone? Who decided that to be light, you must deny your shadows? Maturity begins when we stop fighting our contradictions and start embracing them. Integration is an act of humility. It's looking at each inner flower and saying, you too belong. The part that hides, the part that aches, the part that dreams, the part that dares. All of them are you. The flower you chose today speaks to the chapter you're living, the wound that still breathes, the lesson that still unfolds. But it doesn't confine you. It's not a label. It's a doorway. Because tomorrow, another flower may bloom within you, bringing a new truth, a new way of being. Wholeness does not come from perfection. It comes from permission. The permission to be all that you are, even what you once feared. When you stop pretending to be a single flower and allow your garden to exist, something in you relaxes. The mask falls, not like a collapse, but like a sigh, and your soul finally exhales. The Edelweiss in you offers wisdom. The lotus brings compassion. The sunflower radiates courage. The cactus guards authenticity. Together, they form the landscape of your being, a wild, imperfect, magnificent terrain. There is no flower more important than another, no light superior to any shadow. Because when they coexist, your soul begins to bloom not as a single petal, but as a living garden, endless and real. When you allow yourself to be all of it, the bloom and the soil, the thorn and the scent, that is when peace begins to root itself in you. Not the peace of stillness, but the peace of truth. It was never just about a test. It was never about finding the right flower. It was always about this: the moment you stop searching outside and begin listening within. Every choice you made today was a whisper from your soul. The flower that called to you wasn't a symbol to analyze. It was a message, one that said, "Remember me. I've been here all along." You've walked through mountains, through mud, through sunlight and sand. You've met your silence, your tenderness, your strength, your solitude. You've looked into the mirror and seen not just who you show to the world, but who you've forgotten to water. And now you know, you are not a single stem. You are an entire garden, imperfect, alive, changing with every season. Healing isn't a sudden bloom. It's a slow, quiet unfolding. It's the daily act of giving yourself what you once begged the world to offer: space, understanding, love. It's realizing that the parts you once called flaws were simply flowers growing in the wrong light. The day you begin to care for your inner garden, everything shifts. Your choices change, because you no longer choose from fear, but from truth. Your relationships change, because you stop begging for water from dry wells. And you change, not because you become someone new, but because you finally recognize who you have always been. There will still be days of drought, days of shadow, days when your petals close. That's all right. Even the strongest flowers rest. Even the sun sets so that dawn can return. When you feel lost, return to that inner garden. Close your eyes and ask softly, which flower in me needs care today? Is it the Edelweiss, craving silence? The lotus, needing tenderness? The sunflower, seeking warmth? Or the cactus, asking for rest? Listen closely, because your soul always answers, not in words, but in feeling. Carl Jung once wrote that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. That becoming is not a destination. It's a rhythm, a remembering. And every time you honor a forgotten part of yourself, the garden within grows greener, fuller, more whole. You were never broken. You were only divided. And now, by seeing all that you are, you become whole again. So breathe. Feel the quiet within you, the soil, the roots, the unseen life beneath. Because your soul knows how to bloom. Not like others, not at their pace, but in your own way, in your own season, in your own truth. The flower was never outside you. It was never an image on a screen. It was always you. And now, finally, it has remembered how to blossom.